How to maximize your learning? First thing is increase your sources from which you learn. I've seen that a lot of people learn only from the question that they get wrong. Okay, so you make a mistake, you get the question wrong, and then you try to learn from that question. Okay, of course, there is learning involved there, but there is learning involved in a lot more questions than just a question that you get wrong. You can learn from the questions in which you were confused. So let's say you were down to 2, 3 options, or you were not very clear about a certain aspect of the passage or the argument. Whenever you have certain confusion, you have something to learn, because in the exam you wouldn't want to be in such situations in which you are confused, right? So try to learn from the questions in which you are confused. Try to also learn from the questions in which you take longer than usual. Okay, for example, if a certain question took you 3 minutes to solve, that's a good indicator that you're not very comfortable with that question. So it means that you have something to learn. There are certain ideas there that you would want to be more comfortable with. Okay, and then another question that you could learn from is in which your reasoning didn't match, let's say with the expert reasoning. So you came up with some reasoning, but then you looked up the solution and the reasoning was something very different. Even though you got the question right, but your reasoning was not matching. So that means you're not really right for the right reasons. Okay, so you have something to learn there. Then lastly, you could also learn from questions in which you were not very sure of your thought process. Now that is quite similar to the questions in which you are confused. So let's say you came up with a certain thought process, but you are not very sure of that thought process. You don't have an alternative thought process in mind, so you're not really confused, but you're not very sure of the way you have come to the answer. Okay, so first is to increase your sources of learning, the questions that you learn from. Okay, then secondly, you need to understand that there are levels of learning. Okay, so whenever you are trying to learn from any aspect, you could learn something very specific to the context. Okay, I was confused in this particular word or this particular sentence or this particular kind of logic. Okay, or you could learn something very generic. Oh, I suffer at the reasoning level, or I struggle at the comprehension level. Okay, a lot of people, when I ask them, okay, why did you make that mistake? They're like, oh, sir, I didn't understand it. It's fine, but what did you not understand? Okay, and then you say, okay, this is what I don't understand. I didn't understand. Why did you not understand it? Is this something common? Is it because of the complexity of the statement? Is it because of certain words? Or is it because of what came before that sentence? Right? So you need to understand exactly why you are faltering. Okay, having very generic learning is not going to help you. You can say at every question that, okay, I didn't get the reasoning right. I'm weak at reasoning level, so I need to improve my reasoning. So that's your learning from that question. Every question you can say the same thing, or every question you can be very specific. But learning happens at a spectrum of levels. Okay, from very specific to very generic. Of course, you can learn at very specific levels. You can also learn at very generic levels. But there is also learning in between those two extremes. So you can try to understand, okay, are there specific sentences, certain kinds of structures that I'm usually not comfortable with? Then what strategies can I come up with that would make me handle such constructions? Or are there certain kinds of reasoning that I'm not very comfortable with, or I usually get wrong? Then what would it take to become comfortable with such reasoning? Okay, another thing that would help you really learn across levels of learning is ask whys. A lot of times we ask ourselves just one why. Why did I get this question wrong? Okay, this didn't strike me. Okay, next time I'll be more careful. This is very superficial learning. Okay, next time I'll be more careful, that you can say on every single question, a lot of questions that you're getting wrong. The point is, why did it not strike you? That's a second level of why you can ask. Because there is a Japanese philosophy of asking 5 whys to every problem that you are facing. The philosophy is that, okay, you won't get to the root of the problem by just asking 1 why. So you need to ask a series of whys. So once you understand, okay, I got this question wrong because this didn't strike me, then you have to ask, why did it not strike me? Does it not strike me always, or did it not strike me on this particular occasion? And if it did not strike me on this particular occasion, what was unique about this situation? And are there other similar situations in which similar reasoning wouldn't strike me? So you need to engage. You need to really make effort to understand why you're going wrong. Okay, so you need to understand that your learning can happen at different levels, from very specific to very generic. And the more levels on which you learn, the better it is. Now, the last aspect is how to make your reasoning stick. Okay, you learn from this question, but how do you make sure that this learning stays with you? One is write down things. Okay, if you don't write down, there is little scope of revision. Okay, actually writing sort of makes revision possible in a significant way. If you're not even writing, then it's going to be very hard to revise, and if you don't revise, then it's not going to generally stick with you for a long time. So write down things. Of course, it makes revision possible. Secondly, even when you're writing, that those ideas really seep into you deeply, because writing has multiple advantages. So write down your learnings and then revise them regularly. And then you need to understand that learning can happen not just at the question level, at a group of question level also. Okay, so once you have done 30, 40, 50 questions, try to analyze them together to see, are there any common patterns? Are there some common mistakes you are making, common areas that you are facing confusions in? And lastly, be patient with the process. Okay, of course, it's going to take time, and you will really need to dig deeper into things. So if you're not patient, your mind will just not dig deeper. Okay, it will stay at the superficial level, not really make connections deeply. If you don't make those connections deeply, there's not going to be much learning there. Okay, so be a little patient. So these are the ideas I had for you, so that you can maximize your learning. Thank you.